Greetings, greetings, greetings. Happy Sunday. Happy full moon. Happy blue moon. Happy abundance. Happy care. Happy love. Now we're just going to test some things as usual because, I'm the engineer and the host and everything. For now, we will see what things are going to be like. So today's topic it's a very interesting topic, and I came across this topic listening to Wayne Dyer. So I'll get into how today's topic came about, and then I borrowed his thoughts, but kind of spin it and make it my own. So happy Sunday. Welcome to Wellness is Your Birthright. Every Sunday we come, we have a chat on various topics. The topics are surrounded around wellness and around giving information or tools or techniques or thoughts or different perceptions. Yeah. So that's the show right now, and it's evolving, and I'm loving how it's evolving, and I'm loving how I'm evolving, and I'm loving how people are evolving in regards to their own growth and their own spiritual journey. So it's an exciting time for sure, an exciting time. So I would like to just pause and give thanks for those who came before me, my guides, my ancestors, my great uncles and aunties and mothers and fathers, even those who I'm not technically related to by blood, but they paved the way so I could be here. They paved the way so I could choose ethics over rules. And that's today's topics: ethics and morals over rules. So I am definitely, and I'm very clear that I'm standing on the backs of my ancestors so that I could have more freedom and liberty to stand on morals versus rules. Yeah. So I want to give thanks. So today's topic, how did I get here? So I've just been having conversations. So these conversations that I bring forward, I'm usually having with someone. So either the person doesn't mind coming live, which usually is not the case, they do mind, or I'll just bring the topic and spin it in a way where I don't need to mention names because it's just a topic. We don't need to get into the stuff of it. And today's topic was various conversations in having friends and family members know something that is not right, knowing that something is not ethical or moral, and nobody says anything. They're just silent, sorry. And so that's where all of this actually stemmed from, is witnessing unethical things that are not moral. Things are even witnessing abuse, and nobody says anything, especially in family and certain settings. So that's where this came from. And then as we speak, our phone hears things, and one of my favorite guides or elders or teachers, I would say teacher, is Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is up there, and I've been listening to him for many years. I don't know, since 2012, 2011, I don't know, many years, probably before that. And he said in one of the clips I was watching, ethics over rules. Ethics over rules. So what does that even mean? So this is really, really touching for me and personal for me. I've been in situations where I know if I were to speak, I would be an outcast. I know if I were to speak, I would be risking my livelihood. I know if I were to speak, I would risk my life and put my life and my child's life in danger. So I've lived this phrase, ethics over morals. And as my life continues, it became more of a burning, burning, burning anchor for me. So for me, it was something that was just innate. Now, I'm not perfect. There's times where I'm like, nah, man, I'm just going to follow the rules, or I'm not going to follow any rules or any ethics. I'm just going to go rogue. Okay. So I do have times like that, and I'm human, right? Especially in the past where I was more unconscious of who I was. Definitely made more choices, and I still have tweaking to do. There's still times where I'm like, okay, I could say something or I could hold space, and sometimes I hold space and I just go along and pray. So it's not that I don't always act on my ethics when I should or could. Sometimes I go about it differently. And so in my personal life, I spoke up in situations, and I had to literally be on victims protection because I spoke up, right? And this was umpteen years ago, feels like a lifetime ago. So I stood on ethics even though I knew it may have put my family's life in danger. I also, many times, this is, I'm just giving two examples, also stood on ethics in a government setting where I knew from the beginning, if I acted a certain way or said certain things or brought up certain things, it would stunt my promotion, my growth, or create constructive dismissal. All of a sudden, I'm no longer needed. My role is no longer needed. My role is obsolete. Yeah. And that has happened. Right. So not only my life was at risk because I stood on business, but my livelihood. And if you're in Western worlds and you are a single parent, you typically don't do these things. But I knew that there was always a higher power, a higher source that is my provider in all aspects. So this topic really not only is something that I had to learn to live and embody and stand on, every time I suppress it, chaos would happen in my life. Every time I would suppress my own internal moral compass, I would be the one suffering. Anytime I abandoned myself because of other people's opinion, because that's the rules, because that's what we do in this culture or in this family or in this group family setting or at this place of work or in society, uh, it you know, it was just something that I had to learn to not care about. And sacrificing my safety, my personal safety for me and my family, sacrificing my bread and butter, quote unquote, and not staying silent in a workplace that wasn't safe for certain reasons. And I spoke to that and I escalated it, and I spoke and escalated. Now policies were made because I did that. So yes, I'm no longer in that establishment, but policies were made and things were shifted because of that. And the people that were perpetuating this unsafety for certain people were no longer there. So you may not see or live out the fruits of your labor if you stand on ethics. But I guarantee you, the universe is on your side. And it took me a while to really embody my source and supply comes from the Most High, who is I and I. I am my God, not the God, but I am my own God. I govern my life. I speak into my life. I speak from the unseen ethers, from all the possibilities of reality into existence. Sometimes it takes time, so I need to be consistent. And sometimes it happens in magnificent ways that I never thought it would. And I sometimes may mistake that for, oh, that's not what I asked for. But I'm guaranteeing you, I've negatively or positively, I shape-shift in my life. And that's important because there has to be a foundation if one chooses to stand on ethics. It can't just be a mental thing. That's one part, but it has to be a heart thing to stand on ethics. So some of the points I wanted to talk about when it comes to this topic, which for me is such a beautiful and personal topic, is when rules are not working, what do you do? When the rules are not working. So if they say, one of the rules I broke a long time ago, you don't wear white after Labor Day. I know that sounds, very simple, but for years, I think I broke it maybe in high school. I'm like, I'm wearing white pants. I have white pants. I like to wear white clothes. I'm wearing white clothes. And I remember it was such a big deal. It was such a big deal that no one wears white after Labor Day. No one sits down during the national anthem. My legs hurt. My back hurt. Right? So there were certain things that I had to live out because it was true to me, and my anxiety lowered, my thoughts were clear, I was grounded, and low key I was respected. Even though I wasn't liked, I was respected. So when rules are not working, what do you do? What can you do? And the first thing I'm going to say is you have to be willing. You can't get something for nothing. You got to be willing. It's called the law of sacred exchange. So if you're exchanging for your sovereignty, if you're exchanging for your groundedness, if you're exchanging something for inner peace, you got to be willing to give up something. That is a natural spiritual law. It's called the law of sacred exchange. So you have to be willing to give up something to get something back. That's just nature. So what are you willing to give up when the rules are no longer working? I was willing to give up family ties. I was willing to give up not being liked. I was willing to give up relationships, intimate relationships. I was willing to give up even my own birthing child not liking me. And that was hard. That was hard. So yes, Sister Paula, sacred exchange. And so it was very, very tough. So a couple of things with this, and there's a couple touching points I want to touch on, but I'm going to give some tools that you can practice. You gave up you gave up your career, but I know you're more in peace. I know you're more grounded in love. I know you're more grounded in clarity. And I know you're living your purpose on purpose, for sure, because I've taken some of your courses and I see you're on fire and you're magnetic and you're beautiful and wonderful and magnificent. So I could just see that radiating from you. But I know you gave up not only a career, but the respect and the reputation that you build. It's not easy to work in a field. I've been in social services for over 20 something years, 23, 25 years since I'm not going to age myself. Let me just, but my family owned a healthcare agency. So from high school, I've been in interviews, hiring nurses and things like that. So I've been in human services and social services for many, many, many years, and in the business of it as well. And I'm telling you, when you get into this path of standing on morals, on ethics versus rules, there will be loss. So you have to have a group of people, at least one or two people that understand you, that can support you, because the pain, the grief, the blacklisting that may come with it, it's I'm not going to act, oh, stay on business is going to be good. It doesn't really work like that, because you're shifting energy. So when you're shifting energy and you're birthing a new situation, a new life, or a new opportunity for yourself to grow spiritually, you are impregnated with moral. You are impregnated with value. You are impregnated with ethics. So when you're birthing that, there will be labor pains. There will be labor pains. There will be contraction. And you may be only having one or two people to help you birth through the canal of quote unquote righteousness. I just say peace. You're birthing through the canal of peace. And that's your rite of passage. That is your passageway as you birth ethics, as you birth values, as you birth morals. And it's very, very, very challenging, because you're going against the current of society. You're going against current of what is accepted in society. So first, when rules are broken, or when rules are broken within you, or something is not working within you when it comes to rules, how do you practice ethics? You have to decide. Once you decide, get a group of people or person to help you through this process. Creating your own safety has to be something really important, especially when it's something that is not equitable, something unfair, and you're standing for what's just. And our sister Paula had to conform to ethics below to turn. So thank you for saying that, Sister Paula. When you turn a blind eye, you abandon yourself. And abandonment means that I see you, I acknowledge you, you are important, you're lovely, but I don't give two craps about you, so I'm out. That is like, so the worst, it's better that someone doesn't see you and they just walk past you. But when someone sees you, you know that they see you. They're even acknowledging that they see you. And then they just walk away like you never existed. But you're doing that to yourself. So I see your thoughts. I see your heart. I see your morals. I see your love. I see your ethics. I see the sacrifice. I see the joy. I see your compassion and your care. I see all of that, but that doesn't matter. So go sit down. When you say that to yourself, so physiologically, your heart rate goes up. Physiologically, your blood pressure also goes up. Your shortness of breath may become active in terms of like you're gasping for air. Your thought patterns are not clear. You may be forgetting things. Sometimes if we're doing this, and I've seen this done even in intimate relationships and families and different situations, and I've seen people literally grew a brain tumor because of the suppression of his own voice. The husband did, right? And so I'm not saying that that's going to happen to you. I'm just saying when we abandon ourselves and suppress ourselves and belittle ourselves and neglect ourselves, it does show up in our body, maybe in our tissues or in our thought patterns, but it shows up because that energy has to go somewhere. We got to land it somewhere, right? So the second point is living by values, using truth and care, sovereignty, respect, love, taking responsibility for your decision of saying, I'm going to stand on business. Living by values. So when I choose somewhere to work, I'm choosing my values. So the way I dress, the way I eat, the way I speak, who I speak to, who I associate with, who is in my close proximity, who I talk to on a monthly, weekly, daily basis, the houses I visit, people who come to my house, all of that is stemmed from my values. I'm living out my values. So when it's not aligned, it's not aligned. I've been separated in intimate relationships that no longer was aligned. There's no alignment, meaning me living my way naturally and they living their way naturally, it supports each other. It's not perfect, but there's an alignment, right? So living by values, whatever your value is, you need to figure that out. and you live by your values. So the way you commune with people, the way you speak with people, the way you communicate, the way you work, the way you do things. And if you fall out of alignment, that's okay, because you have your moral compass that will pull you back in. The third thing is standing firm on truth. So once you know your morals or your values, now you can just say, this is where I'm at. So now it's easy to set boundaries with yourself and with others. So one of my truths for me is negative self-talk and negative talk is something I no longer vibrate as or at. And sometimes I slip into it in terms of like venting, but I know I know that this is what I'm doing. I am venting and I'm getting it out, and I'm speaking to the right person who's going to challenge me and ask me back questions. So that's very different than, you know what she do? She did this and this and that. And did you know? And did you see? Oh my gosh, let me pull up the picture and send it. Like, no. One thing that lowers the vibration in a group or in oneself is gossiping. It vibrates very, very low. I had my chart here on my wall to show you. It vibrates really low. So gossiping, it just vibrates low. So that's one firm value and more. And I carry that where I work. I carry that everywhere I go. And I realize that I'm trusted in ways to hold sacred information and to hold space for people so that they can feel safe when they didn't feel safe because of this. So when I stand firm on this truth and I'm living it out, even when I'm in a disagreement with someone, I am not going to weaponize things that they said to me no, I'm not even going to do that. I'm not even going to pasa in the argument, if you want to call it, or be gossipy with the person's information. I am not going to weaponize what you shared because I'm trying to prove a point. I stand firm on not bringing up these things for personal gain or to increase my own ego. I stand firm on, these are just one of the things I'm sharing for me, is no gossiping. And if it feels like gossiping, shift it, because sometimes venting can get into and then. Okay, if the intention is to come up with a solution, that's very different. And I ask people, challenge me. So I stand firm on that. I stand firm on also being kind to people. That is hard when harm is being done to you. When harm is being done, when you are being abused, whether verbally or emotionally or physically or in any other way, that is hard. So with my kindness comes a hard boundary that's rooted in self-care. So I stand firm in my self-care. I stand firm in my positive thoughts. I stand firm in my love. I stand firm in those boundaries. The fourth one I want to bring up is be clear and be flexible. So when I'm clear and I'm like, this is what I'm about. So I'm about no gossiping. I'm about care. I'm about self-love, whatever it is that I'm deciding that this is what I am firm in, and this is what I'm going to practice on, this is what I'm going to stand on, this is a part of my ethics, this is a part of my moral compass. When I decide that this is what it is and I'm very clear, I'm also willing to be flexible, because sometimes somebody may teach me that, you know what you're standing on is actually not really true. So you're saying you're decolonized, but you're actually still using a Western model for your mental health workshops. So how's that working for you? So I'm willing to be clear about how I'm living, about my values, but I'm also flexible to learn that maybe there's a blind spot. I can't be too righteous to say, oh, I'm living on ethics and I'm standing on business, and I can't learn. I can't be flexible in my thoughts. I can't be flexible in my approach. I have blind spots. And there's places in my life where I can't see. So yes, my intentions are pure. My care is real. But sometimes that still may offend somebody and hurt somebody. And I got to be flexible to revisit that with somebody, or I got to be flexible in knowing my intent is pure, but maybe my tactic or the words I said was not the best version of myself, or the best way to say it. Let me say that. And that happened recently. I did have a friend, and they said, okay, I have your back, let me know. And I'm like, okay, here's my situation. Let's fix it. Since you said you have my back, this is what I need help with. And they went back and said, well, didn't this person did this to you? Didn't that person did that to you? Didn't that person say they're going to help you? Where are they now? So I got in my feelings, because they were weaponizing information that they knew that was happening, were people who said that they were there to support me, and they were not there to support me. And I was hurt, because this was supposed to be, one of my roadies, a good friend. And in that emotion, I stood on kindness. I was still being kind. I didn't blow up, even though I was hurt. But the words I chose to express how I felt was not good. So my sister friend, I told her what happened, and she's asking very, very pointed questions. And she said, yeah, you shouldn't have said that, because now how you said that, not what you said, but how you said that may have been hurtful for that person. And now you're hurting, and now you inflicted hurt on somebody else. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. And that wasn't easy. So that took about 4 conversations, because I was like, no, they hurt me. So I was clear about my intention, but I had to be flexible in shifting my approach, because even though I'm about morals and ethics, the way I went about it was not the best way. So even though we have people out here that are saying, oh, I am a healer, I'm this and I'm that, and I'm this and I'm that, they still capitalize on that, right? So the intention might be pure in its sense, and they might be very clear with that, but they're not flexible with how they are living out their values. So if you're a spiritual healer, sometimes you may do something for a lower cost. Sometimes you may offer a sliding scale, right? So this is just examples of one particular person I'm thinking of. And I just like, so you're not going to help people because they can't afford it. You got to be flexible. What you're doing is great. It's very, very moral. It's on ethics. I love it. It's beautiful, but you got to be a little bit flexible. So not all the time when we're standing on values and ethics, that the way we're going about it, it translates as something that is positive or accepted or matching. Sometimes how we express it may not be aligned. So you have to, for me, I would offer to be flexible. If you are not expressing your ethics and your moral correctly, be flexible to shift it. If someone does come to you and say, listen, I know what you're trying to do. It's good. It's all good. It's beautiful. But you got to show up on time. You got to show up. What your ideas are beautiful. I love your ideas. I love what you bring to the team, to the family. I love how you braid hair, or I love your artistry, or I love whatever it is that you do. But the way you're going about it right now, that's not it. That's not it. Right? And that's what I really mean about being flexible, is the intentions could be pure, could be good, and it could be standing on ethics and morals, but how we go about it, we got to check that. And for myself, how I went about it, sometimes I was in my trauma brain and I would react instead of respond. So I had to learn that if I'm truly standing on ethics and values, that I had to be willing to shift and change and be flexible, because I don't know it all. So the first one that I touched on is, when rules are not working, how do you shift? How do you shift? And historically, when we look at any change maker, they had one or two persons by their side. So that's number one that we talked about. The second one that I talked about is living by your values. So start to make decisions that are based on your values, not what society says. Is this something that aligns with you? Is this a part of your ethics, your moral compass? And then make the decision. And sometimes the decision is to walk away, is to be the lonely ranger, is to be the black sheep of the family. And I think I am the black sheep of the family, which is fine, because sometimes we are the ones to break the chain in the family. The third one I mentioned is standing firm on your truth and your morals. So that is the consistency. Right? So yes, you're living out your values and you're making decisions, but be consistent, right, with it. If Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or Sojourner Truth or anybody, or Marcus Garvey, if they stood on business and they're living their values, but when it comes to standing firm in the truth, the consistency, they pulled back and says, you know what, just joking. Just joking, Rosa Parks, just joking. I'm going to sit at the back of the bus. Just joking. If they had done that, what would have happened? Right? So standing firm in truth, to do that, you do need a support system, because you will be faced with resistance. It may cause some grief, because it's going to be a loss of what you were doing to something that you're going to do. So that change might come with some loss. Yeah. And the fourth thing is, be clear about what you're doing, but not only be clear, but also be flexible and be willing to negotiate how you are living your ethics and your values, and learn and grow. So before, I was very reactive because I just go, and I've learned that if I'm really standing on sovereignty and self-mastery and love, I need to take a breath, practice more meditation, silence my mind, things like that. So those are the four things that I wanted to share. And if you don't know what your values are, maybe start there. What are the things that really creates an upset in my body when I hear it, when I see it, or even when I'm thinking it? What is it that makes you cringe? What is it that makes you stop breathing? Because sometimes when something happens, we stop breathing for like a few seconds, and then we're like, and then you take a deep breath and we don't even realize it. So what is it that makes you, if you're a woman or anybody that wears pearls, clench your pearls or hold your breath? So maybe in that thing or that situation or circumstance or event is your value. So discover what your values are and be willing to give up something in order to get something. Be willing, be willing, be willing, be willing. And this is one of my favorite laws, and I'm going to end it here. It's called the law of access. And I'm actually going to read it to you. The law of access says, sharing sacred things with unworthy people gives dark forces access to you. Guard your spiritual intimacy. Guard your mind, guard your heart, guard your soul. So as you start to stand on ethics and values and not following the rules of society or of things that are not aligned with your morals and values, once you start to do that, be very mindful who you give access to, right? So that's all what we have today. Just some key thoughts. And I can tell you this supported me immensely as I shifted through my own standing on business, right? And that's a story for another day. that has to be in a book. It cannot be told in that way. But I've sacrificed my safety and I've sacrificed my well-being because it was my ethics. It just didn't work well with my ethics. And then living out my values in my day-to-day decisions. So it's not easy, and you may lose family members and loved ones, friends. You may be considered crazy, but I can tell you this, the amount of joy and peace that comes with it when you birth through that canal, because you gotta go through something to get peace, right? You cannot just say, oh, I'm gonna have peace. To have peace and tranquility and calmness and health and wellness is your birthright, remember. To have that, you have to be willing to give up something, right? So those are my little nuggets. Namaste. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye. Happy Sunday. Happy full moon.